A pig nearly started a war between Britain and America. In 1859, the danger gathered on San Juan Island, a green patch between modern Washington state and Vancouver Island, where two powers had drawn rival borders through the same cold channels, and then allowed settlers, officials, and soldiers to test them. The island was never empty ground waiting for those powers to arrive. Coast Salish peoples had lived across the northern straits for thousands of years, managing prairies for commerce, berries, and game, while drawing food and travel routes from the surrounding sea. The legal fuse had been laid in 1846, when the Oregon Treaty carried the international boundary west along the 49th parallel, then directed it through the middle of the channel, separating the continent from Vancouver Island, and onward through the Strait of Juan de Fuca. That sentence looked precise in Washington and London, but the geography refused to cooperate. West of the San Juan Islands ran Haro Strait, while Rosario Strait passed to their east, and the treaty never named which channel its negotiators meant. Britain favored the eastern Rosario route, which would place the island group on its side, while the United States favored the western Haro route, which would place the islands inside Washington territory. Each interpretation could be drawn directly from the same words. Neither government settled the question before people began turning rival maps into facts on the ground. The Hudson's Bay Company asserted a British presence, operated salmon curing stations, and in December 1853 established Bellevue Sheep Farm on the island's southern prairie. Bellevue was an economic project and a territorial claim. Its workforce included European, Hawaiian, and Native American men, and within 6 years, its herds had grown to about 4,500 sheep, 40 cattle, 40 hogs, and 35 horses. By spring 1859, 18 American settlers had also staked claims on valuable company grazing land. They expected United States recognition, while British officials saw trespassers occupying a working farm, so every fence, crop, and wandering animal carried the weight of an unresolved border. Then one hungry pig crossed a garden. On June 15, 1859, an American settler named Lyman Cutler found a Hudson's Bay Company pig rooting among his potatoes and shot it, converting a neighborly property quarrel into the incident that gave the Pig War its unforgettable name. Accounts later embroidered the argument and the price demanded for the animal, but the dangerous part is well documented. British authorities threatened Cutler with arrest and warned that American settlers could be removed as trespassers, prompting the settlers to seek military protection. Their appeal reached Brigadier General William Harney, an intensely anti-British commander who treated the complaint as proof that American sovereignty needed defending. He ordered Company D of the 9th Infantry, led by Captain George Pickett, onto the disputed island. On July 27, Pickett landed with 64 soldiers and camped near the Hudson's Bay Company wharf on Griffin Bay, just north of Bellevue. A dead pig had now produced an armed American occupation beneath the guns of the Royal Navy. Vancouver Island Governor James Douglas answered by sending Captain Geoffrey Phipps Hornby aboard the 31-gun steam frigate HMS Tribune. Hornby was told to dislodge Pickett but avoid an armed clash if possible, a pair of orders that could not easily coexist. Pickett refused to withdraw, more British ships arrived, and Rear Admiral Lambert Baines finally refused to turn the standoff into combat. He would not, as the National Park Service records, involve two great nations in a war over a squabble about a pig. Restraint at the top did not make the island safe. British crews drilled with 52 guns, American officers prepared field positions, tourists arrived from Victoria to watch, and officers who might soon fight one another still attended church together and shared whiskey and cigars. The American force kept growing until, by August 31, 461 soldiers occupied the woods with 14 field cannons. 8 32-pound naval guns were also removed from USS Massachusetts for a redoubt directed by Lieutenant Henry M. Robert, later associated with Robert's Rules of Order. The crisis was absurd, but it was not harmless. One nervous sentry, misunderstood maneuver, or overeager order could have made local commanders decide an international war before either national government understood what had happened on this distant island. Washington finally saw how absurdly dangerous the island had become. President James Buchanan sent General Winfield Scott, the senior United States Army officer and an experienced manager of earlier border crises, across the continent to contain officers whose actions had outrun diplomacy. Scott reached the San Juans in October after a 6-week journey from New York by way of the Isthmus of Panama. Working through messengers with Governor Douglas, he arranged for both nations to withdraw their reinforcements and leave only a small symbolic presence. In November, both governments accepted a joint military occupation while diplomats searched for a permanent answer. Harney was rebuked and reassigned, most American soldiers departed, and the immediate choice between humiliation and gunfire was replaced by an intentionally unfinished compromise. American Camp occupied the island's southern prairie near the scene of the crisis. Its position had water and defensible ground beyond the effective reach of British naval artillery, and over time its soldiers built quarters, an infirmary, a schoolhouse, a blockhouse, and communications links. British Royal Marines established English Camp on sheltered Garrison Bay in March 1860, roughly 15 miles northwest of American Camp. Their compound eventually included barracks, a commissary, officers' quarters, working grounds, and a formal garden supplied from Victoria. For 12 years, the flags of both powers flew over opposite ends of one disputed island. The arrangement was military, yet daily life could be strikingly civil, because both governments had transformed the troops from instruments of escalation into placeholders for negotiation. That long pause was the real machinery of peace. It gave surveyors, diplomats, and political leaders time to revisit the treaty's missing channel name, without forcing either side to abandon its claim under the immediate pressure of hostile guns. The final answer came from Berlin, not the battlefield. Under the 1871 Treaty of Washington, Britain and the United States referred the San Juan boundary question to Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany, who placed the competing interpretations before a 3-member commission that deliberated in Geneva. The commission compared the treaty language with geography and the rival routes, then delivered its decision through the German emperor. On October 21, 1872, the formal award selected the claim of the United States and placed the boundary through Haro Strait. That line left the San Juan Islands with the United States and put the international boundary in the deeper western channel beside Vancouver Island. A disagreement that soldiers had been unable to settle with cannon was resolved by reading a treaty against a map. The Royal Marines left English Camp on November 25, 1872, and the last United States troops departed American Camp by July 1874. After years of crisis and occupation, the only battlefield casualty remembered from the Pig War was the pig itself. Today, San Juan Island National Historical Park preserves both camps and the landscapes around them, including evidence of the indigenous, agricultural, and military histories that the comic nickname can obscure. The preserved sites make the peace visible on both ends of the island. The Pig War matters because restraint did more than prevent a ridiculous war. It converted an ambiguous sentence, rival settlement, and loaded guns into time for arbitration, leaving a border that still runs through Haro Strait and a warning that maps become dangerous when people pretend their uncertainty has already disappeared.